Next up, I can see that we're joined here by some of our friends from Fingerhut and AWS. They're here to talk with us today about thriving in this disruptive world that Heidi just painted this picture of. Ben, Megan, and David, it's so great to see you all here today. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd love to first kind of go around and have each of you introduce yourselves. Ben, let's start with you. Can you please tell us about your role and tell us more about Fingerhut?
Hi, you bet. Hi, thanks a ton for having me today. I'm Ben Thompson from Fingerhut. Fingerhut is a multi-channel retailer, mostly e-commerce. We're also the largest catalog retailer. We help folks we provide folks with the opportunity to buy the things that they want and need through our proprietary credit. So they can come sign up with us and get anything from apparel, household goods, sporting goods, etc., and pay low monthly payments for that. So helping out a lot of folks. We also have a great credit component that helps people rebuild their credit when they've gotten into a tough spot from that aspect. So I've been with Fingerhut about 15 years. I run our e-com analytics, tag management, and CDP practices. So thanks a ton for having me today.
It's amazing. I love the Fingerhut mission. Megan, you're joining us from Fingerhut as well. Can you tell us a bit about your role?
Yeah, absolutely. I am on Ben's team, and I am an e-commerce analyst on the team. I'm one of the primary users of the CDP tool, so I'm in the trenches doing the work with Audience Stream every day to help give our customers a better experience on our website.
Fantastic. Thank you. David, thanks for joining us as well. Here with us from AWS. Can you tell all of us about your role there at AWS?
Yes, sure. My name is David Dorff. I look after solutions for the retail industry at AWS. So basically what I do is I help retailers work backwards from whatever problem they have to figuring out the right solution. So we do a lot around digital innovation.
Fantastic. Okay, everyone, I'm going to do my best to manage our time well and save a little bit at the end so the audience can ask questions and you all have some time to answer those. So for those of you with questions for our speakers today, feel free to throw those in the chat as we're moving forward. But Ben, I'd like to come back to you to start us out. Can you talk to us a little bit more specifically about how Fingerhut came to the realization that you needed a CDP? Kind of what was the situation? What did that look like? And how did you arrive at that conclusion?
Yeah, absolutely. So Fingerhut was in a spot a few years ago where there were a couple things going on. We had this strong desire in marketing to be able to talk one-to-one to folks, and operational hurdles there that we could not get there, right? We also had a very disconnected ecosystem digitally of different vendors having different tags on our sites to complete user actions like retargeting and etc. And we thought we need to consolidate this. We need to get the tags off the page, do things server side, and give a consistent customer journey. And it really led us kind of to this realization that CDP was the future of how we would run our business. And now about 3 years later, it really is. It's the day-to-day of Fingerhut.
Fantastic. And Megan, I know you've been instrumental in really helping extract as much value as possible out of that CDP for Fingerhut. Talk to us about your experience. You know, what use cases are you working on? What does audience segmentation look like for you? What are you most excited about that the team's working on right now?
Oh gosh, that is so much. I could go on for a half hour, so I'll try to consolidate. I think one of my favorite things about having a CDP tool is being able to communicate with a customer in real time and kind of, I like to say, set it and forget it, right? So we have a concept of communication delivery, and we're able to utilize the information that we have on the website to be able to go ahead and communicate with the customer about that relevant content in a very precise amount of time. I would say probably one of my favorite campaigns that we've done is our cart abandon campaign. And I think a lot of retailers have a general cart abandon email, at least according to my online shopping. I can attest to that. And so that is definitely something that we had as well. It was the first CDP experience that we set up, which drove about a 450% lift in revenue for us. Not overall revenue, but of course, of people who abandoned their cart. And it was so successful that we actually set off and created a browse abandon campaign as well, just so we could get a little further up that funnel. But then as we kind of tried to optimize that experience, we knew that we were limited on folks who were opted into our email and we actually had a good email address for. So we expanded that program to include a postcard service. As we all know, everyone nowadays is completely drowning in all of the digital content. And so being able to bring it back kind of old school to their mailbox was something kind of unique for us to be able to do. And again, that's all a stream of communication. So we're starting with email and we're bringing that next step to the mailbox. And we were actually able to get an incremental 9% rebuyer response rate on those postcards, which was huge for us. And it's really blowing up for the campaign. And we're actually on track to send hundreds of thousands this year because it's been so successful and profitable for us. So now what we're doing, what I'm excited about is we're utilizing Audience Stream's functions tool to actually test out a cart abandoned postcard that has a product image associated with it. So we're using internal data systems, grabbing that image and throwing it onto the postcard using the function tool. So like I said, we're just starting to test into it. I don't have anything I can share, but I'm very excited to see how that one plays out.
That's awesome. Those are some great success stories, and it's awesome to know that there are even more in the hopper.
Yes.
David, I'll shift over to you. So we know Fingerhut runs on AWS. We at Telium run on AWS. I would venture to guess that a lot of folks who are joining us here today also have their hands up running on AWS. Can you talk to us a little bit about those primary roles that AWS is really playing for retailers today? What are you primarily seeing?
Yeah, so primarily we're really trying to remove the what we call undifferentiated heavy lifting from the retailer workload, right? So we want retailers to focus on being retailers, not focus on IT. So we're trying to move them away from doing the everyday management of servers and all that kind of stuff. And we're adding a lot of innovative learnings that we've gotten from the Amazon side of the house. So things like personalization, very important, forecasting. We do a lot with artificial intelligence and machine learning. We have a product called SageMaker that really helps people be able to use machine learning without necessarily hiring tons of data scientists, right? Which is such a hard hire to make. We're doing a lot around scalability. So trying to help retailers make sure that they can scale up at the right times. Data lakes, trying to make sure retailers have all the right customer information that they need and product information. It really runs the gambit. We, as I mentioned earlier, we love to work backwards. So we love to talk to a retailer, identify what their problems are, and then work backwards to come up with the solutions that they need. So we provide a lot of infrastructure, but a lot of also high-level business capability directed at particular industries, in this case, retail.
Awesome. Okay, that's really cool. And I know in speaking with you too that personally you're really passionate about omni-channel experiences. How have you seen that change in retail over the last couple of years? There's been so much change in the industry and marketplace that Heidi kind of walked us through at the highest level. But what does omni-channel and retail look like from your point of view?
Yeah, totally identify with the things that Heidi pointed out there. So most retailers started off with stovepipe systems and they've said, oh, we need to do omni-channel. So let's kind of integrate them together. And they end up integrating them with what I'll call duct tape and baling wire, right? And it makes it very brittle and it's complex, and something breaks, everything goes wrong. I think retailers are now starting to back up and think about, how do I build systems from the ground up that are omni-channel native, right? So instead of, for example, having a point of sale system and having an e-commerce system, can I have a selling platform that has a different user interface for the store and a different user interface for e-commerce, and another one for mobile and another one for kiosk, whatever. That's kind of headless commerce. So we're seeing a lot of interest in that. We're seeing a lot of interest in CDPs. So customers saying, you know what, I need a centralized place for all my customer information. I can't deal with having this silo over in e-commerce and this CRM system over here and this marketing email system over here. They all need to be run off of the same data. That's really, really important, especially when retailers start to talk about things like adding machine learning. Retailers come to us all the time and say, hey, I want to do machine learning. Okay, what do you want to do? Personalization. Okay, do you have all the data in one place? No. Well, let's start with the basics. Let's collect the data up, get it in one place. That way we can start to mine that data, start to see all the things that we can get from it. That's a real key workload that I see tons of retailers working on right now.
Absolutely. We're seeing the same thing on our end. Ben, what do the key priority channels look like for you across your brands? I know Fingerhut is primarily online, but there are a couple other channels that Megan touched on as well. Talk to us about the omni-channel strategy at Fingerhut.
Yeah, the omni-channel strategy at Fingerhut is really interesting. You know, as a huge catalog retailer historically, we're noticing now that through the pandemic, everybody shifted online, right? Everything was online, everybody record sales. And now folks are wanting to feel out a little bit more of an offline experience. And we don't have brick and mortar. And so we have to take an interesting approach to getting offline, if you will. Digital's very crowded right now. So, you know, working with things like the postcards that Megan was mentioning, obviously we send tons of catalogs. Mobile app is also huge for us. We see that as a little bit offline because the customer's walking around with us in their pocket. And you talk about that expectation around personalization. When they actually allow us on their phone and download our app and walk around with us all day, there needs to be a value there for the customer, right? So we can't just do massive blasts of push messages to everybody. It has to actually be relevant to you for us to kind of earn that space with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And Megan, I know you touched on this a little bit, just about really being able to set the CDP and forget it, like let it, not forget it, obviously, but
Yeah.
you know, work for you. How important has that been to really establish that solid foundation, knowing that there have been so many changes in the landscape, and just having that foundation that can pivot with you as your business needs to pivot? What have you observed or learned over the last couple of years with all of these changes impacting the business?
That's a great question. I mean, honestly, it's like you said, it's allowed us to just be a little bit more agile with what the needs are day to day. Retail is always a crazy world, but retail during a pandemic with supply chain shortages and all of the other crazy things that we've all gone through is really pivotal in being able to help us make those daily, monthly, yearly sales. So another example of that I love is we were able to use Audience Stream's tally function to keep track of what our individual or what our consumers' favorite pages tended to be. So we grouped those by, you know, merchandise type. And that way, when we have several offers out there, let's say during holiday, which is obviously a very busy time with different offers on the table, we're able to give the consumer the offer that's most relevant to them. And that's, again, a stream effect all the way from email to social to the mobile app to an actual on-site banner that we're able to deliver through the webhooks connector. So again, just being able to shift exactly where we need based on whatever is going on that day is something that CDP allows us to do because we have all of that data ready and available.
I love hearing those tangible examples of how our retailer partners are personalizing experiences for their users. It's very smart. David, does this resonate with what you're seeing across the retail landscape? I mean, when you look at successful retailers who are really driving their business forward in 2022, what are they doing? What's different?
Yeah, you know, I think it's a combination of things like personalization and omni-channel. So I think a lot of the personalization that I'd seen in the past was on the website, right? And now we're starting to think about, hey, how do we start to collect information in the stores as well and leverage that? We're starting to see the capabilities of computer vision come to life, right? So many of you have probably visited Amazon Go store where you can do the frictionless just checkout, just walk out, you know, you don't have to do checkout at all. Can we use those cameras to track path to purchase and understand how people are moving in stores? Are there ways that we can understand abandoned carts in a store where I picked something up and decided I didn't want it and I put it back? Could we gain some insight from that? And then can we personalize the experience across all channels? So you may have looked at something in a store, maybe I'm going to target that on the e-commerce site and show that as a recommendation. Or maybe just the opposite. Maybe you got something in your cart and you go into the store and maybe I ping you on your phone and give you a coupon for that thing to just give you a nudge to make that purchase. I think it is the combination of all these channels, trying to pull everything together into a seamless, complete experience A lot of retailers are starting to focus that much more now. And of course, we mentioned privacy, and that's a big thing too. I think it's really key for retailers to want to be the butler and not the stalker, right? There's that fine line. Everything I do and everything I collect needs to be in service of that customer and helping their experience. But I don't want to go creepy on them. I want to make sure that I'm the butler and not the stalker. That's a key thing for that I'm seeing that retailers have to look at.
Absolutely. I love that analogy. David, while the spotlight is on you, let's shift to the future. What's coming next? What's happening globally that may be headed to North America? What is that ultimate retail experience going to look like later in 22 or even into 23, 24?
Yeah, I mentioned the just walk out technology. I see that spreading in lots of different places, not just retailers, but hospitality. I'm seeing that in sports arenas and things like that. Another really big thing that I'm excited about is live streaming, which of course is very popular in Asia, right? So everyone's on their phone. It's a combination of entertainment and selling at the same time. So I think the pandemic has caused people to stay home more and want to be entertained in different ways, not just browse all the time. So the idea of having an influencer sort of demonstrate products and be able to easily click on them and add them to your cart and get that information, kind of that social aspect of asking questions about the product or liking the product, I think there's a lot of capability there. And I'm seeing that get more interest in Europe and a little bit in North America. So I definitely see that coming in the next year or two. We're going to start to see a lot more live streaming.
Love that. I personally love tuning into different influencer handles to see like what's coming next with fashion. And so that's awesome. I'm down with seeing more of that for sure. Ben, Megan, I'd love to kind of kick it to you to talk about the future. Megan, what are you excited about? What's on the roadmap that the team is really pumped to see come to fruition later in 22 or in 23?
That is a great question. Well, one of the things I also wanted to mention was our ability to really stay on top of fraud. As a fintech, we are definitely a target of some scams, and through audience streams functionality, we've been able to flag, potentially fraudulent orders, and then push those over to an S3 bucket with AWS and send those to agents to check on. So just our ability to be more flexible to everything that our business and the world demands, be it sales or the opposite, is definitely, I think we've just scratched the surface on where we're going, and I think we're consistently coming up with new ideas of where we can go next. Like I said, just diving a little more into those capabilities, like the cart abandoned postcard with image that I had mentioned earlier, and testing into that is going to be fun. And we've got tons of stuff on the roadmap that are similar to that. So.
Fantastic. And Ben, Megan just touched on it. Fingerhut is so unique as a retailer, also a fintech company, right? It's very hard to put very many companies in one specific bucket these days. But from your vantage point, where do you see the industry going? What do you think is coming next? Where are you kind of pointing the team to stay focused on for the future?
Yeah, I think there's two key things that I think consumers are expecting of us. One first is that they're dealing with a company that has a mission and hopefully a greater good. And like you mentioned, we're a retailer, we're a fintech, and we're also somebody who provides a service for folks who may have gotten into some financial trouble before, or just need some help in growing their credit and their credit worthiness. So we have that niche, and I think that other retailers need to find their niche in kind of what they're doing beyond their day-to-day business for the greater good. I think also that from a more tactical standpoint, we've been talking for years about right message, right time, right? And that's blowing up. We've got the right message, right time thing. Now it's, as David's talking about, right channel, right context, so it's not creepy. Right, right placement within whatever channel you're in. And it gets more and more complex, and you need tools like a CDP to be able to deliver that without a huge lift from your teams. And you need the creativity of your teams to feed into the CDP and make those sorts of things. And so I think that, we as retailers, we need to continually help paint for each other and for our teams the art of the possible and iterate on all that we're doing to get those excellent customer experiences out there.
I love that. I use that a lot in the terms in the realm of CDP, the art of what's possible. It's so true. And it's a beautiful way to paint that picture. We do have a few minutes left, and we have gotten a few questions that I'd love to see if we can squeeze in here. David, what are some of the most innovative use cases that you've seen in retail? Putting you on the spot here.
I think the most innovative use case has been the just walk out technology. So frictionless checkout. So if you think about it, the checkout's kind of the worst part of shopping. And so being able to get rid of that checkout, I think is decades worth of innovation, right? I think that's huge. And that's being offered to all sorts of other retailers now. So it's even working in grocery. So we're seeing that at Amazon Fresh stores. And I think there's a lot of potential there. Some other interesting things that I've been seeing have been around the use of machine learning. So just the blocking and tackling of figuring out how can I make my forecast more accurate? How can I really tighten down my supply chain with digital twins? The use of machine learning, I think, is really important, and it's all data driven, right? So you've got to have all the right data, which most retailers have. Retailers have always had tons of data. It's making good insights out of that data that's important, and machine learning has really come a long way in helping us do that.
Absolutely. Okay, next question. Ben, let's kick this one to you. What were some of the most important factors for setting your CDP up for success internally?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say that the number one thing for us was bringing everybody along on the journey, right? So even if you weren't going to have hands-on on the CDP, we wanted you included in, how we were onboarding it, how we're building it, even training on it. So everybody understood what it is and what it does. And then second was just some killer use cases to show the business, like, this is legit, this is a real thing here, right? And when you knock that one out of the park, that's when you have folks coming to you with ideas, right? And it's really cool to have kind of gotten there as an organization of, it's not just Megan and I suggesting to the business, hey, we could do this or that with the CDP, right? It's them coming to us saying, I think you can do this for me. And we can say, yep, let's do it.
Fantastic. That's great. Okay, one last question. Let's throw this out, and Megan, maybe you can take it. What are some approaches to tracking when an item was purchased to then change our targeted content to perhaps accessory items for that item? So a lot of customers, including myself, are frustrated by constantly being marketed an item that I've already purchased, whether that be a pair of boots or a TV, et cetera.
Great question. So, do they want excuse me, tactical? I guess what I would suggest is that we would look at the product that was actually purchased and feed that data back over to, a recommendations engine, or however they're being retargeted that item, and excluding that as an option of what they would be fed, if that makes any sense.
No, that's perfect. I think that's really helpful.
Good.
Fantastic. Okay, we are right on time. I have so enjoyed this conversation. David, Ben, Megan, you all are just tremendous leaders in each of your respective areas of expertise. Thanks so much for joining us today, sharing your knowledge. It's an honor to call each of you partners, and really appreciate you all taking the time out of your busy days to join us for DV 2022. It was great to see you all.